the dumbest criminals ever. I mean, there's been a lot of criminals throughout human history. So to make a list like this, you have to be like incredibly dumb. Like these people are like, they just don't have that common sense, you know, that voice in our heads that's like, don't do this. It's a terrible idea. You know, do that. It's a good idea. You know, that sort of little voice of reason that we have, they must just not have it.
Hey, try rolling it, morons. It's a barrel.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most ridiculous criminals the world has ever seen.
Do you have bigger bags for atlases or dictionaries, sir?
Number 30, Charles Ray Fuller. Who amongst us wouldn't love $360 billion? Unfortunately, you can't just waltz into a bank and hand the teller a check for that amount.
Maybe that might...
Is that what he wants?
Cause a red flag at the bank that you were trying to catch a $360 billion check?
Well, it turns out you can. Just ask Charles Ray Fuller. In 2008, Fuller walked into a bank in Fort Worth, Texas with a personal check in the amount of $360 billion.
What?
He claimed his girlfriend's mother gave him the check to start a record company.
Oh my...
Unsurprisingly, bank employees immediately notified the authorities, and Teller was arrested for forgery.
My favorite part of the article says, tellers at the Fort Worth bank were immediately suspicious. Perhaps it was the 10 zeros on the personal check that tipped them off.
Even worse, he was carrying both illicit substances and a handgun at the time of his arrest, so he was also hit with charges of drug possession and unlawful carrying of a weapon. Oops.
Because we do the stories every week. You're driving next to a guy that's that dumb. They're everywhere.
Number 20.
Unreal. 360 billion. He didn't even try and make it like a believable amount. He just, like, he was definitely.
29. Peter Kavanaugh. It's a tale as old as time. A criminal takes a picture of themselves doing something illegal, which ultimately lands them in jail.
Believe it or not, jail, right away.
Back in 2013, a man named Peter Kavanaugh worked with a London mob delivering shipments of drugs. While returning with the cash, Kavanaugh whipped out his mobile phone and took photos of himself with the massive stack of money. But he wasn't counting on two of his dealers getting caught. After the two women were arrested for possession, they led the police straight to Kavanaugh, who was busted thanks to those damning photos on his phone. He was swiftly arrested and thrown in prison for 3 years.
I've made a huge mistake.
Number 28.
Man, not certain. Obviously, I don't encourage this behavior at all, but to flaunt it, you know, to take pictures with the ill-gotten goods and the money, like, what a dope. What a dope. You got to keep that stuff quiet.
Hannah Sabata. Taking a selfie is one thing. Openly bragging about robbing a bank on tape and then uploading it to YouTube is a whole new level of bold.
Unreal.
But believe it or not, that's exactly what 19-year-old Hannah Sabata did back in 2012. Sabata stole $6,000 from a Nebraska bank and then made an incriminating video in which she admitted to the crime and flashed the cash.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
This video was uploaded to YouTube by user Jelly Beanie under the title Chick Bank Robber, and it has since amassed over 2 million views thanks to its notoriety. Sabata was arrested the same day the video was uploaded. Imagine that.
I'm shocked. Yeah.
Number 27.
God, like, do these people not have any brains? Like, why would you put that on YouTube? Like, obviously you shouldn't do that. Obviously, you shouldn't rob banks. But why would you tell the world?
Adam Valle. We don't know if committing a crime right in front of a police station is recklessly brave or ridiculously stupid.
A little from column A, a little from column B.
Probably the latter. In December of 2018, 26-year-old Adam Valle waltzed right up to the front door of the Gladstone Police Department in Oregon and tried stealing a locked bike. Police inside instantly noticed the crime on their surveillance cameras and watched in complete disbelief as Valle attempted to break the lock.
Is he for real?
Officers simply walked out the front door and confronted Valle, who probably couldn't believe that he had been caught. How did that happen? Surely it had nothing to do with the cameras everywhere, or the front door, or the window right beside him with Gladstone Police written on it.
Well, when you put it that way, yeah.
Number 20.
Drugs, man. Drugs, for sure. A lot of these people, I think we're going to see on this list, are just high as a kite. They're not thinking straight whatsoever.
6. The loud getaway donkey. This sounds like one of those fake news stories you'd read about in The Onion, but it's 100% true. 3 criminals in the Colombian town of Juan de Acosta stole a number of items from a local shop and made their getaway on a stolen donkey. And they would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for that darned donkey.
All right, I hope you heard that. She called me a noble steed. She think I'm a steed.
You see, the tired animal started to bray loudly and drew the attention of some nearby police officers. The thieves immediately bailed when the police sauntered over, leaving behind both the donkey and the stolen goods. The items were returned to the shop and the donkey was safely reunited with its owner.
I'm a donkey on the edge!
Number 25.
Like, couldn't they find any other mode of transportation better than a donkey? They couldn't get their hands on a bike or a moped or anything.
Free beer. Who can deny the allure of free beer? Certainly not these 19 English criminals who fell for an oddly genius police sting.
Hey, wait a minute. What about the old stinkeroo? Yeah, I'm in.
The Derbyshire police had a number of wanted suspects who had evaded capture, and they were running out of options. So they cooked up a plan, offer them free beer and see who takes the bait. They phoned the suspects, posing as a company giving away crates of beer, and made a simple arrangement. Meet up at a specific location at a specific time, and they would hand over the beer, just like that. When the criminals arrived, they were greeted not by company men and free booze, but by police and handcuffs. How they fell for that one is beyond us.
You're really good at that, Lloyd. I learned from the best.
Number 24, Matthew McNally.
I mean, as ridiculous as that story is, you know, Brits love beer. So I can see why it was successful.
And Joey Miller. There are tons of ways to hide your face. Stockings, ski masks, those old-timey bandanas, and a permanent marker?
Sharpie.
Genius.
Back in 2009, criminals Matthew McNally and Joey Miller tried breaking into a house in
And this was their disguise. Oh my God.
Carroll, Iowa. Witnesses described their getaway car to police, who quickly tracked it down and pulled it over. Inside were the 2 men, their faces scribbled with permanent marker like a coloring book that had felt the presence of a couple of toddlers. The men's hilarious mugshots were later released to the public, and the entire world couldn't stop laughing.
Insane.
The local police chief later claimed that it was the funniest thing he had seen in nearly 30 years on the force. Number 23.
It's just like, I can't believe that. Like, I can't believe, because they looked at each other and thought, yeah, that's enough. I can't tell it's you.
Peter Addison. Now, we're certainly not condoning it, but if you break into a place, maybe don't write your real name on the wall. No one gave Peter Addison that terrific bit of advice. Addison broke into a Cheshire campground and trashed the place, leaving behind a mess and some messages written on the walls. One of them read, "Thanks for the stay," and of course, another read, "Peter Addison was here." Police got Addison's personal information, and when they arrived to question him, he was wearing a t-shirt that was stolen from the camp. You know, just in case you thought it couldn't get any dumber.
It can. Oh, baby, it can.
Addison was arrested and ordered to pay £750 in fines. Number 20.
He might as well have put his face next to the Peter Addison was here signature. He might as well just have put a nice photo of his face, smiling.
2. Shaquille McKinney. Hey, it's tough out there for a salesman.
Counter it with.
Sometimes you have to make cold calls, and that's exactly what teenage salesman Shaquille McKinney did, just that the product that he was marketing to potential customers was cannabis.
Sweet Mary Jane is my vice of choice, as you well know. Of course, I'm addicted to selling it, not consuming it.
Yep, McKinney made a number of cold calls throughout the Pinellas County area in Florida, asking people if they needed some of the green stuff. Unfortunately, one of those people was a Gulfport police detective. He arranged to meet McKinney at a nearby school, and when the young boy arrived to deliver the drugs, he found a number of officers waiting for him. He was charged with drug possession with intent to distribute within 1,000 feet of a school.
Feel manipulated. Thought we were gonna hang out.
Number 21.
Man, didn't any alarm bells go off in his head? They're asking me to meet them near a school. I've never met this person before. You're going to be selling a substance that's illegal. It's just like so many things like should have told this guy, no, don't do it. But I guess he was just desperate to make the sale.
Mganga. We don't know what's dumber, stealing a car while you're out on bond or stealing a car that you don't know how to drive.
Not everybody knows how to do everything. Driving isn't the only thing.
Teenager Mganga carjacked a woman named Melissa Peters as she was driving her kid to school. He hopped in her Dodge Caliber hatchback but didn't get far, being unable to work the manual stick shift. Instead, he simply sat there in a panic, flicking the lights and turning on the wipers in a desperate attempt to work the transmission.
That's just the horn. I don't know that, do I?
He was doing that for 7 minutes while people around him called the cops. They soon arrived and arrested Mganga, sending him back to jail. Number 20, the doorbell licker.
Can you imagine the desperation that Mganga was feeling when he was desperately trying to get the car to start, like just pressing everything? Like, he must have been sweating.
You might not be familiar with Salinas, California, but it's the hometown of a few famous folks. Writer John Steinbeck, performer Vanessa Hudgens, and of course, 33-year-old Roberto Daniel Arroyo, perhaps more commonly known as the doorbell licker. Sylvia Duncan's decision to install a Ring doorbell camera into her front door yielded a pretty curious home movie, starring Arroyo as he licked her doorbell for 3 whole hours.
Yeah. 3 hours.
He's into this. He is really into this.
As the case went viral online, police quickly caught up with him. They pointed out that the clear quality of the footage made him much easier to identify. So a word of advice to would-be doorknob lickers, maybe make sure to check for a camera before going about your licking.
That's why the doorknob and this is completely white, because I wiped it down with 4 medical grade sanitary cloths.
Number 19.
That is gross. That is just so gross. Honestly, that is nasty. Maybe he was high and he thought it was something else that he was licking. That's the only sort of explanation I can think of. Even if that's the case, it's still super gross, isn't it?
Dennis Hawkins.
Let's go, pal! I'm making a withdrawal here.
Wearing a disguise is great for concealing one's identity if one is going to commit a crime. Someone should have told Dennis Hawkins that in order for a disguise to work, however, it has to be somewhat believable.
Sit up and take a look, Gary.
It's uncanny.
Hawkins apparently missed that memo as he attempted to rob a bank wearing clown pants with a pair of fake breasts and a blonde wig.
Sorry, they're new. Dr. Dorfman did an amazing job. They feel so real.
Not only did he fail to cover his face, which still had a goatee and mustache, but the disguise also attracted attention, and the police easily apprehended him. Number 18, Daniel Glenn.
I need you to arrest me.
That wig just wasn't. At least shave off the goatee. At least try and change how you actually look a little bit.
It's important to be prepared, especially if you're going to rob a store. It's possible to be too prepared, though, which is exactly what happened to Daniel Glenn, who inexplicably decided to call ahead to ask the store how much cash was in the register. Imagine how that conversation went. Hello, I'd like to place a takeout order for all the money. Can I get fries with that? Confused and slightly alarmed, the store owner immediately called the police, who arrested Glenn on his way to the store. Number 17, Tony Van. Breaking the law requires a certain audacity. But Tony Van, a 37-year-old San Francisco hairstylist, took this to a new level when he drove a stolen car to his own trial. Van was facing charges for possessing a stolen $125,000 Porsche Carrera, so maybe he thought no one would notice when he arrived at court in a stolen Lexus instead. When Yorkshire puppies he'd left inside escaped through a window, sheriff's deputies noticed and ran the license.
That's a cute dog. If I was going to get a dog, I'd get something like that. At least as my first dog, because I've never had a dog before.
Plate. He was charged with possession of a stolen car and computer, as well as animal cruelty. Number 16, Trevor Jones. Ever just want to check your Facebook one more time? 34-year-old Trevor Jones couldn't resist when he broke into a house in Gwinnett County, Georgia, in November 2011. Unfortunately for him, he used the home computer to log in. To be fair,
you couldn't wait. You couldn't wait till you got home. He wanted just to see how many likes his latest comment had got.
It's no wonder he wanted some social media downtime. A woman whose house he'd tried to rob earlier had seen his car, taken his keys and wallet, and called the police. Jones had to swim a pond to escape before breaking into another nearby house. Still, he probably should have logged out of Facebook before leaving. Instead, he gave police everything they needed to identify him and issue arrest warrants. Number 15.
What was he thinking? Like, didn't he think that, me logging into my Facebook where they can see all my photos, they can see my face, like, what are you doing?
Albert Bailey.
Police in Connecticut say they had ample warning of a bank robbery because the two suspects called the bank ahead of time, telling an employee to get a bag of money ready.
We're gonna say this now. If you're planning on robbing a store or bank, don't call ahead and ask them suspicious questions or warn them that you're coming.
We are the ex-presidents, and as you can see, we are in fact robbing your bank. So with a little cooperation, I won't have to blow your heads off.
Seemingly inspired by our previous entry, Albert Bailey called the bank and told him he was coming to rob them so that they would have the money ready for him when he got there. He even had an accomplice enter the bank with a note informing the tellers who Bailey was.
Open the damn door!
Obviously, the tellers had called the police, who apprehended Bailey immediately.
Hold it right there. You're under arrest. I'm taking you in.
Number 14.
It's like, who does... Like, not all of these people can be under the influence. Like, not all of them, you can blame it on drugs or booze or whatever. Like, some of these people are just super dumb, aren't they? They're just dumb. Like, really, really dumb.
R.C. Gatelin. Curiosity killed the cat, and it also caught the criminal. In 1988, R.C. Gatelin came across some friendly Detroit police officers who were showing off their squad car's computer to a few local kids. His interest piqued. Gatelin approached the officers and asked them to give him a demonstration, voluntarily giving them his driver's license so they could run a background check. The cops complied and discovered Gatelin had an outstanding arrest warrant for armed robbery. It wasn't outstanding for much longer. The police arrested Gatelin on the spot. Still, he must have been impressed at how well the technology worked. Number 13. The Living Dead Burglar. There are times when playing dead might be a smart idea. In the animal world, the Virginia opossum plays dead to avoid predators, and some fish feign death to attract prey. But when a 23-year-old man broke into a Spanish funeral home in March 2008, he learned it isn't the most successful strategy in the human world. When police arrived to investigate the reported break-in, this man tried to fool them by lying on a table in a glass chamber used for wakes.
Wow.
Police were tipped off when they noticed that, for a corpse, he was awfully alive, breathing and everything. Number 12. Christian.
Can you imagine him just lying there as still as he can, just trying to breathe, like, really, subtly, like... And imagine him doing that and he can feel like 4 officers just staring at him, waiting to crack. I wonder how long he held on for before he just started laughing.
Bala.
Polish intellectual Christian Bala believed he could get away with murder. He's now serving 25 years in prison.
To commit a crime, you have to be slightly arrogant. If you get away with the crime, this arrogance can increase to the point where you feel untouchable. After murdering Dariusz Janiszewski in 2000, Polish author Christian Bala wrote a novel titled Amok, which featured an eerily similar murder and details of the case only the murderer himself could have been privy to.
The torture and murder of advertising executive Dariusz Janiszewski goes unsolved for nearly 3 years, until Christian Bala posts extracts of his first violent novel on his blog.
Police uncovered clues relating to the murder, most of which came from the novel, eventually arresting and charging Bala.
It was a very personal murder. He had a score to settle.
To their shock, they discovered on his computer plans to kill another person to tie in with the next novel he was planning to write.
From his cell, Bala still rankles at how his novel was interpreted by the police.
Bala's infamy lives on. In 2017, Amok was adapted into a feature film by director Kasia Adamik. Number 11.
It's kind of messed up that they, make movies and TV shows out of like horrific events like that. Imagine you're like the victim or the family member of the victim, and, you know, there's some Hollywood studio that's turning the murder of your family member or whatever into a movie. It's kind of messed up, isn't it?
Christopher Cron.
Or what do you think? Do you think it's fine?
It's only polite to answer the phone. It could be someone important, like the company that monitors the alarm you just tripped. On the night of his birthday, 47-year-old Christopher Cron broke into the Junkanoo bar on Fort Myers Beach to steal a bottle of Grand Marnier. When the alarm company called, he not only answered the phone, but also gave his full name. Because he hadn't hidden his face either, police were able to identify and arrest him the next day based on video surveillance of the break-in. Number 10, Eloise D. Reeves.
This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs.
Buying drugs is an art, because you don't have the option to exchange or refund your purchases if you don't like the product you get. Apparently, no one told this to Eloise Reeves, who had the gall to go to the police to complain about the quality of the crack cocaine she'd just bought.
Unbelievable. This isn't eBay. Like, you can't leave like a star rating. What?
She reportedly pulled the crack rock from her mouth and placed it on the cop car for the deputy to inspect.
What you need?
One, please.
One what?
One rock of
crack.
A crack rock. Is that enough?
She was charged with the possession of cocaine and fined roughly $1,500. Number 9, Jonathan Ochoa. People have busy lives, and sometimes the only way to keep track of important events and dates is by keeping a diary.
Dear Diary, Sleeping Beauty is having a slumber party tomorrow, but Dad says I can't go. He never lets me out after sunset.
It might be a good idea to leave out any planned criminal activity, however. This seemingly never registered with Jonathan Ochoa, who on June 12, 2010 wrote, "Go Portsmouth robbery happens" in his diary.
Oh
Your
my
diary
God.
proved very interesting to read.
You read my journal? The police were able to link him to the robbery as the getaway driver, and when confronted, Ochoa attempted to blame it entirely on his buddy.
Arrest him. It's his fault.
There is plenty of fault to be passed around.
Number 8.
He blamed it on his mate. Like, mate, who else is going to be writing in your diary? Unless the friend lives with him. But even then, he's not going to write in his diary. Like, Jonathan, come on.
Mark Smith. We aren't sure if there's a criminal handbook, but we have to guess that falling asleep in the house you're robbing has to be high on the things not to do list. Mark Smith must not have read that page.
By dinner, I popped a few more on top of some cocktails and a Valium or two.
Smith decided to take a quick nap under his victim's bed, drunk on vodka and high on Valium, only to be discovered by the homeowner, who immediately called the police.
Not off. I wake up in strange places. I have no idea how I got there.
You need to lighten up.
We've heard of cat burglars before, but Smith seems to associate more with cat nappers.
Where am I? What's going on?
Number 7, Christopher Koch. In any criminal endeavor, there's plenty that can go wrong, but step 1 is actually getting inside the building you hope to rob. 28-year-old Christopher Koch should have looked at the opening hours before attempting to rob a Citizens and Northern Bank in Liberty, Pennsylvania. Wearing a ski mask and gloves, he rushed the door, only to find the bank had just closed. To be completely fair, what kind of bank closes at noon? As Koch sheepishly...
Yeah, to be fair, that's a valid point. Usually they're open, at least here, from 9 to 5, 9 to 5:30.
retreated, employees inside wrote down his license plate number, and he was later arrested.
And I want you to call the police. I want to go back to jail, please.
Number 6, Derek Mosley. So we know you're not supposed to bring a gun to a knife fight, but what about a baseball bat?
Revolvers. Revolvers.
This is exactly what Derek Mosley did as he tried to rob a gun shop and steal a firearm, equipped only with a baseball bat and a knife.
This is like probably what... I mean, we've seen a lot of dumb people, but this is the dumbest so far, for sure. Like, that you're surrounded, you're robbing a place where there's weapons that are far superior to what you have.
A lot more compact than the flaming sword, but it's not nearly as impressive. It doesn't have that wrath of the almighty edge to it.
Of course, the manager pulled out his own gun and held Mosley until the police arrived. Who would have imagined that the manager of a gun store would possess his own gun? Will wonders never cease?
What a dummy.
Number 5, Michael Anthony Fuller. If you're already committing a crime, why not go big? In 2011, a 53-year-old North Carolina man tried to use a $1 million bill to buy a microwave, a vacuum cleaner, and other merchandise at Walmart.
It must be worth a fortune.
The total price of the goods was $476, so he was apparently fairly optimistic about how much change Walmart keeps in their registers.
$1 million bill. Like, mate, you've never seen one of these before used in real life. What makes you think you can actually use it?
Unfortunately, the cashier didn't have $999,524 on him and knew there's no such thing as a $1 million bill, leading to Fuller's arrest. As it turns out, sometimes when it comes to going big or going home, you should probably just go home.
Now give it back.
Give what back?
Number 4, an uncanny resemblance. A fake ID is a teenage rite of passage, but when you show a fake ID, you should make sure you're not handing it to the actual owner. You know, the one whose face is on the ID you're holding in your hand? That's what happened to one 26-year-old woman at Applebee's in 2013, when she showed the waitress Brianna Pretty her own driver's license as proof of age. It had been stolen with a bunch of other possessions a month earlier.
Can't we resolve this conflict without anger?
Instead of bringing her customer a margarita, Brianna brought the cops, and the thief was caught red-handed. Number 3, Ruben Zarate.
I mean, didn't she look at the ID, look at the waitress, look at the ID, look at the waitress, and then put 2 and 2 together and think, maybe I shouldn't use this ID. Like, where is the brains?
Open the safe, Pops. Open the goddamn safe!
Deciding to rob a muffler shop, Ruben Zarate brought a gun and demanded the money, only to discover that the money was in the safe that could only be opened by the absent store manager.
Now, I know you come back here to open your safe. So now you can open it.
He decided it would be a good idea to leave his number with the store employees so that they could call him when the manager returned. Of course, they called the police, who set a trap for Zarate and arrested him.
Excuse me? Placed under arrest.
Are you kidding?
Hands behind your back, sir.
I'm trying to help here.
Heck, we're just surprised Zarate didn't leave his name, address, and social security number too.
Drop the gun. You are under arrest.
Number 2, robber of Halifax Bank in London. Committing a crime is a stressful endeavor, and mistakes do happen. If there's one thing all robbers should remember, however, it's that your gun is your most valuable asset. This particular robber seemed to forget that fact as he attempted to rob the Halifax Bank in London.
Put the money in the bag.
Demanding the teller fill the bag with money, he accidentally gave away his gun to the teller instead of the bag. After a brief moment of confusion, the bank worker retreated, forcing the robber to flee. At least he managed to escape with a bank employee's bicycle, and so we still don't know his name. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and
I'm running out of words, honestly, like to describe the levels of dumbness that we're seeing here. Like, I didn't think it was possible for people to be this dumb. I genuinely didn't. Like, have you met people this dumb in real life? Like, I can't say people that would do this sort of thing, you know. I can't think of any. I can't think of any people that I've met that are this dumb.
Ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them.
What's gonna be
if you're on
number
your
one?
phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, MacArthur Wheeler. When he was arrested for robbing 2 banks in Pittsburgh in 1995, MacArthur Wheeler was genuinely incredulous. His logic had been impeccable. Lemon juice is used in invisible ink, therefore if you rubbed his face with lemon juice, no one would be able to see his face.
Oh my
right?
word.
Psychologists who studied the case named it the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias in which unskilled people are least able to perceive their own incompetence, and so become overconfident. In other words, when people are really dumb, they can't see how dumb they really are. Do you know of any more silly criminal stories?
I've said unbelievable at least, it's got to be at least 30 times, and I meant it every single time. Just to risk your freedom by going to prison and not thinking it through. Not that I'm encouraging it at all, but to just think of the dumbest plan possible. You know, like stealing something and then signing that your name, oh, I was here, Robert Duncan was here, or logging into Facebook after breaking into somebody's house. It's just crazy. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.